I think that there's a little piece of him in every single person. Even if a person looks all bad, you know that there's at least a little bit of good in him.
I promised him that I'd be good in school, but something in my mind keep on buzzing around my head. And I keep on getting better and better.
I don't know what heaven is. They say it's in the sky, farther than space.
Heaven is some place where people die and they go upstairs. It's not fancy or nothing. It's plain. You don't come alive at heaven. You get wings, I think. And when you get the wings, you can fly all around. And Eugene says that if you wish something like that, it's in front of you. You know, like if you wish I had a black sky, like that, it's in front of you.
It's above the clouds and under the universe. It's just above the clouds.
It's like down here, except I guess it's more fun up there than down here.
Well, I had a dream once that I was in heaven, and they had little children had bees on with propellers.
I don't know. I guess I will go to heaven. I'm just taking a guess. I don't know for sure. You go up in heaven when you die, so you don't have to pay taxes or anything. It's positive. I said different prayers every night. Well, when my uncle died, I said, "Please, God, take good care of my uncle up there in heaven." Amen. That's what I said last night. I don't know what I'm going to say tonight.
Like in school, if I think that I'm going to get a bad mark on my exam, you know, and Mommy and Daddy will get mad at me, so I close my hands and I start praying to God that Mommy and Daddy won't get mad at me.
I ask him sometimes to help me be a better boy and to forgive all my sins, the lies I tell, and things I do bad.
I pray before I go to bed, and sometimes before I eat. Sometimes, of course, in church. Well, one thing, you have to kneel down, stand up, sit down, kneel down, stand up, and gets you tired.
Mostly before I get a beating, I always say a prayer. God, please make my burdens light. Please put something into my mother's head that would make her forget about the beating.
Who is God? Well, it's an invisible person, and he lives up in heaven, up there. God is somebody who rules the world. He's sort of like a spirit, I guess, up in outer space. He kind of started all the plants growing, and he started people. Now I guess he's kind of big and fat. He can see us wherever we do. Whatever we do, he has such powerful eyes. He doesn't have millions and thousands and billions. And he can still see us when we're bad. He could be sitting on the table right now, but you can't see him. If he was a bad man, he'd make everything bad. He wouldn't have electricity. He wouldn't make people. And that's what would happen if God was nice.
He's not what a lot of people think is just a feeling, but I think he's a real person.
Well, I think that God isn't a person, but he's up in the heavens and he's watching over us right now.
God is everywhere, and I don't know how he can do it.
He can't be everywhere at once doing everything for everybody. Everybody can't get what they want.
God, I guess, he's just a person that makes me believe in him. Well, he feels like he's next to me, right next to me.
God is a person that rules us, and he tells us what's good and he tells us what's bad, and he's our conscience. To me, I think of him as someone who makes flowers and green grass and the blue sky. Well, his job is to make us good and make us happy and make us parents good. And my grandma and grandpa, when they come and buy us presents, buy nice ones. once I was hurt, so he gave me the courage to fight this boy that was hurting me. God is a person who takes care of dead people when they go up to heaven, and he tries to make our wishes come true and everything.
I think he helps Mother Nature.
Because the right things is better than the wrong things. If you're good, you don't get caught in jail or anything. God can tell if you're lying because on your face it sort of looks like you're lying. Well, one thing that I know is if you're good, you go up to heaven. If you're bad, you go down to the devil. And when you go to the devil, you don't go up, you go down. When I'm good, my mother never yells at me. When I'm bad, she does. Good means to obey your mother and father, do what the teacher says, do things right. I feel miserable when I'm bad. I feel miserable inside, but on the outside, I just feel like I feel now.
I think that there are more people that are bad than there are good. And if you're good, you'll live forever, and if you're bad, you'll die when you die.
The enemy really wanted you. It was even before it had infiltrated your life. Could you share a little bit of your own story?
Well, the beginning of the story really begins when Dave and I were engaged. We engaged in premarital sex, and I became pregnant, and then we eventually had an abortion, and that's when abortion was illegal, and the Lord revealed to Dave when we were at a prayer meeting, we were praying and fasting, coming against abortion, that Dave and I had murdered our first child, and he said, this is when you had given your lives over to Satan. For in Ephesians says, it says, do not give the enemy a foothold, and this is when we opened our lives up into the hands of Satan, and after that time, when we got married, and then I wanted a baby, and then I spontaneously miscarried that child. 13 months struggling to get pregnant again, carried that child, but with symptoms of the disease starting to grow in my body. And then I became pregnant again with my second child, and then they didn't know whether they were going to terminate the pregnancy. They said, well, we don't know if our kidneys can make it. And then, after the birth of my second son, Blake, in 1976, I fully exacerbated with acute lupus. And at this time, I experienced kidney failure. I lost, awful tone to my body. I had extreme fatigue, severe arthritic disease. I had 5 skin diseases on my face. One of them was planar warts. My face was so covered with warts, to say that I had 50 warts on one eyelid would not be exaggerating, and they were so dense that they overlapped in areas. The 4 other skin diseases, Dave was taking me to various doctors, finally to Ann Arbor, and they didn't even know what to name them. And I was putting creams and salves and everything on, trying to treat them, and finding more reactions. I had lost almost all of my hair. I didn't go completely bald, but I lost almost all of it. It was beginning to stink every day, more and more hair. Eyebrows gone, eyelashes gone. I grew a downy-like beard and mustache. I had hair all over my chest, my arms, my back, my legs.
You must have felt like Job.
It was really hard.
It was a living hell.
It really was, and I was going mentally. I had high blood pressure, excruciating headaches. They didn't even know what would be left of my brain after it was over with, whether I'd be able to think or function.
Dave, as a doctor, you knew what was coming.
Kind of sitting back, at first I have to admit I gave my wife a very hard time. When she first turned her life over to Jesus, she'd be in front of the television and she would be praying and lifting her hands up, and I thought, oh boy, she's just completely lost her marbles now, and she'll never be the same again. She wasn't the same again, as it turns out, thank God. But I finally realized after a while that something really was happening to her, and in spite of the fact that we were giving her medicine and so forth, she was doing really much better than I expected her to do. And as time passed, I slowly started to soften, and then pretty much I got off of her, and I thought, well, if she's going to die, at least let her die happy. She loves the Lord, fine, let that be it. And as time passed, I slowly started to soften, and then pretty much I got off of her, and I thought, well, if she's going to die, at least let her die happy.
And now we take you far away to the drought-stricken area where a little child is facing starvation.
Thank you, Dad. Cindy is one of the suffering children in India. She is 13 years of age. Her mother died when she was only 2.5 years old. This made it very hard on her father. He was just a common laborer and only worked 3 days a week. His wages did not amount to enough to feed them once a day. Cindy was soon becoming bitter and resentful. She could not understand why her father could not feed her as often as she got hungry. She soon had to go out and seek for what little food she could get. They did not have the money to buy food, so she would go to marketplaces and wait for them to throw out some of the rotten food and bring it home to her father. Many times she had to fight for the food, or she would be beaten for trying to steal it. Due to her being without food for a long time, she could not even sleep restfully at night. She would have nightmares and wake up screaming and crying. Her father felt very bad because he could not provide for his daughter as he should. Soon she developed an itch that grew worse as the days went by. She became weak and sickly. She went to the neighboring hospital, but they would not allow her to go inside. She wandered in the streets in search of help. No one would stop to help her. She knew that her life was almost gone. There was no hope of ever having a better life. She had made up her mind that she would lay down and die. As she was preparing to do this, she met a group of people on the road. They asked about her welfare, and she told them her story. They brought her to the Douglas Memorial Children's Home. Now that she is in the home, she needs a sponsor that will help her to receive all the things that she so desperately needs. Without your help, she may not be able to stay in the home. Won't you have mercy on this poor, suffering child and sponsor her for an entire year? You may address until.
Thank you, Yvonne. Now, my dear friends, it is up to you. We've told you the needs as God has directed us. We cannot tell you all the needs, but we can tell you it is great. One of the greatest needs we have today, the Douglas family, is your prayers. We desperately need your prayers. We're carrying a tremendous load with the multiplied thousands of people around the world looking to the Lord and believing that we will continue to help. We need your prayers. Please continue your help and give more if you can. Help for the food for hunters. We need $3,000 a month for them. Help us drill another well for only $2,000 in a drought.
One shall not have sex with a step-sister or a step-brother. One shall not have sex with an uncle or an aunt. And then it goes beyond family ties. It's right there. I'm giving you the Bible. One shall not have sex with his neighbor's wife or husband. They shall not swap wives. Brother, America's full of wife swappers. And then it says, one shall not have sex with the person of the sex, 2 women or 2 men. It's the word of God. If a man lies with mankind as he lieth with a woman, abomination on him. Look at it. Leviticus 20:13. This is the Bible in Greek. Now, I'm not picking on any one group. I'm not classifying on any one category. I'm preaching on immorality. But adultery in God's commandments applies to all kinds of sin. Oh, fornication spoils the land. 50,000 girls, 12 and 13 years of age, are going to have illegitimate babies. May it popular to try sex and live together for a while. It may be, but no fornicator, one who practices premarital sex, enters the kingdom of heaven. 1 Corinthians 6:9. No one who practices adultery, wife swapping, enters the kingdom of heaven. 1 Corinthians 6:9 and 10. We could name everything having to do with immorality. Dirty movie houses, pornography, filthy magazines. This is the sex age, and many of you say it's all in one's mind. My God says you cannot do these things and go to heaven. For this you know that no whoremonger or woman chaser or unclean person, one who's always telling dirty, smutty, sexy stories, or the covetous man who's an idolater, he makes the dollar his God, has any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and of God. You talk about sexual liberation. You call Christians Puritans, fanatics, and all you want to call them, but you've got a God to whom you'll have to answer someday when the judgment bar comes and the books are open and he begins to look over your life record. The 8th commandment is, thou shalt not steal. You ought not to take a rubber band home from work if it isn't yours. The 9th commandment is, thou shalt not lie. God hates lying. Proverbs 6:16 and 18. And outside of heaven are liars. Revelation 22:15. We all lie. From the time we're born, the wicked are estranged from the womb. We go astray as soon as we get born, speaking lies. Psalm 58. Little Bobby's 3 years of age. Mommy's the scale of the cookie jar, son. She hears the rattle, comes running back, says, Bobby, what you doing? He says, nothing, nothing. Crumbs are falling down his shirt. He didn't have to be taught to do that. He was born that way. Friend, one lie keeps us out of heaven, for we've broken one of God's commandments. And if we break one, we're guilty of all. James 2:10. The 10th commandment is, thou shalt not covet. That means desire. Don't desire your neighbor's house, your neighbor's wife, or your neighbor's possessions. Let me illustrate this. Someone says, oh, look at that beautiful colonial home, and I got this bungalow. Wish I had his house. Look at that Chrysler New Yorker he drives, and I got a Toyota. Maybe that's the thing to have now with the energy crisis. Oh, look at his wife. Look at mine. You bent with a or what is? That's covetousness. Well, brother, and if in the light of God's interpretation of the commandments, we've all sinned. Right. That's why Ecclesiastes 7:20 says there's not one just man upon earth that doeth it now. All we like sheep have gone astray, Isaiah 53:6. As it is written, there is none righteous, no, not one, Romans 3:10. The Scripture has included all under sin, Galatians 3:22. You say, all right, I'm convinced. I've broken one of God's commandments. I'm a lost sinner. I need help. What am I going to do? Come to Jesus. You see, the law has just cursed every one of you. Cursed is everyone that continueth not in all things of the 10 commandments. Galatians 3:10. All right, we're all condemned. We've all broken one of them. If we broke one, we're all guilty. Then what? Galatians 3:13. Christ hath redeemed us from the curse of the 10 commandments, being made a curse for us. When Jesus, God in human flesh, went to Calvary's cross 1900 years ago, shedding that precious, efficacious, holy blood, He bore our curse, our penalty, our pains, our pangs of an eternal hell upon Him. And He's saying to you today, if you'll come, I'll save you. And if you come, He'll give you everlasting life. The colonel said, I've never been so happy since I found Jesus at 78. The financial empire didn't do it. Jesus did. A great name in the history books is Ethan Allen. This comes from the book Testimonies of the Dying. Dr. Balliot, the medical doctor for the Ethan Allen family, tells us this. Ethan Allen had married a backslidden Christian. She said, what's the difference? He doesn't believe in God. I'm not living for God. Everything went well for a while, and then Mrs. Allen got right with God at a revival meeting. She came home and said, Ethan, I'm going...
Possessing stolen property, and 22% of those who were arrested for robbery. Can you imagine it? Well, now people wonder, well, how come the law doesn't put a stop to it? Well, you ought to know that by the very moment you hear the question put, because you read the newspapers, you hear the news broadcasts. How can the law stop it when there are weak laws with no force behind them? And how can it be stopped when the parents and the citizens themselves insist on having a casual, informal type of a courtroom system with no backbone, no conviction in it? You've heard of the one outstanding judge who recently ordered some young teenagers whacked soundly on the posterior in his courtroom, and then also instituted a program of having them go out and clean up beach areas and streets and the like to teach them a lesson. You know, he's in Chicago, and some teenagers came sauntering into his bench one day accused of certain crimes. He could see they were all hostile, rebellious, long haircuts with their black leather jackets and boots and the like, mimicking some particularly noxious actor who is known to go cavorting around on motorcycles, at least on the screen. I don't know if he does in private life. And they all want to mimic him and so on. And so, of course, the judge wouldn't even hold. Under those conditions, he ordered every last one of the boys to go get a real good, clean butch haircut. Take all the long, greasy-looking locks off of them. Get them a good, scoured, clean, scrubbed look. And then he had them come back into the courtroom, this time with their parents. Then he ordered the bailiff to take the leader of the gang, bend him over a desk, and really whack him good and soundly a few times, you know. He just wasn't much of a hero in the eyes of his fellows after that. And then he had them out gathering up cans. Well, you know, they really learned to like it. and at the last report the boys had straightened up a good deal. They'd learned somewhat of a lesson. Well, you know, with a little bit of teeth in it, there's something to it after all, some conviction. But because most parents have been following the precepts of child psychology, of progressive education, of don't punish them, you're liable to sort of pervert or twist their growth and development, then children have a feeling of absolute freedom, of do what you please, you can get away with it. Teachers are saying that the idea depicted by articles in the movie called Blackboard Jungle are not rare occurrences which seldom affect a school, but are the rule in most big D schools of today. In some schools, it isn't safe for teachers to walk the hallways except in pairs for their own physical protection. A high school teacher in San Diego, California said, and I quote, "I've heard several boys say in my class their one ambition is to kill a cop." Think of it, teenagers, young hoodlums saying they want to kill a cop. "I've seen switchblade knives in my room," she said, and had sent boys to the principal's office with them. Juvenile authorities repeatedly tell the attitudes of juveniles who, when brought to court, show utter contempt for constituted authority, and no wonder. Because it seems that the childish procedure is that law enforcement agencies must avoid at all costs giving youthful criminals any sense of guilt over their actions. Don't make...
And my little girl called California screaming and crying and sobbing and says, "Mama, they've taken our dogs to the dog pound and had them killed." Well, I didn't think they'd have them killed, so we checked and checked and checked. And finally, we have located the people. They didn't kill the two dogs. They took them and gave them to good families, for which I will forever be grateful for the people of the dog pound. While we were gone in California, the people from PTL came over and went through our house. Now, all you ladies know that a lady's house is kind of special, regardless if it is a parsonage. And a house is where you keep all your stuff, you know. And I don't think anybody would like people coming and going through their house and looking in their closets and checking drawers and things when they're not home. And they keep threatening us that they're going to come and take our house away. In the minutes of the meeting at the board of directors, our house was given to us. So we are going to go to lawyer, and we are going to try to keep our home. That's about all we have left of Heritage USA is just our house. We've lived there for 8 years. It's the only house the kids have known. And once again, the children cry and say, "Daddy, please don't let them take our house away from us." Something kind of sad happened out here the other day. Jamie came out where you all were, and he was playing out here, and he said, "Move everybody, move everybody," as little 11-year-old boys will do. He says, "The president's coming to see us." And one of the press people told him, "Oh, the presidents don't like you." And Jamie comes up to the house with big tears in his eyes and says, "Mama, does the president hate us?" And I said, "Oh, no, Jamie, the president's like Santa Claus, and he likes everybody." Another thing that happened that hurt really bad, and there's been a lot of hurt in this, and the reason I haven't talked before is because I didn't want to come out as a bitter lady. I don't think I'm bitter anymore. I've asked God to help me with that. They have found hundreds, I guess, of my albums that they took and buried at PTL. They just took them out back with a bulldozer, put them in a hole and buried them. People have gone and dug them out and brought a lot of them to our garage, and they have dirt all over them. And one of the people went and even got out total boxes of the albums that hadn't even been opened yet. I think that's sad. I think that PTL could have given the albums to someone. I didn't think they needed to throw them away and bury them. We received, while Brother Dortch was still president of PTL, we received thousands and thousands of letters from our partners wanting us to come home. And they took, and sources say, and very reliable sources say, that they took all the mail and took out the money that was in the mail and shredded it all and didn't even bother to answer it. And so thousands and thousands of our partners have not received an answer from their letters they wrote us, and we want to apologize for that. The reason you did not receive an answer, they promised they would send them to us, and they did not. They shredded all the mail. And I'm sorry about that. I want to tell our partners that we love you more than anything in the whole world, and we've missed you. I don't know how God is going to work this whole thing out, but I know somewhere He has a great plan. And if it's God's plan for us to stay out of television, we're willing to do that. But I think once God puts a call on you, He doesn't take that call away just because something else comes in and tries to take over the call of God on your life.
The spokesman for Jerry Falwell said none of Tammy Baker's allegations has any validity.